This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. Information at vachamber.com. Virginia hospitals and health systems provide jobs. They support our economy and promote public health. Local hospitals are always open to help people with unexpected health needs. Having a stable healthcare network is vital. Virginia hospitals are our lifeline.
It's amazing what my students with special needs can accomplish. Their pride is priceless. That's why I teach.
Brought to you by the Virginia Education Association, because a good education is good for everybody.
Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.
Welcome to This Week in Richmond, and a very special welcome back to Secretary Maurice Jones, Commerce and Trade. We appreciate your being on. You've helped our viewers before, and so we want you to give us some assistance now to let us know what's happening in your secretariat and what are the big issues you're working on here during the 2016 session.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me back.
Yes.
The big issues, of course, are around budget.
Right.
This is the budget session, and for us, we try to divide our work into sort of 5 segments. We are working on matters that are related to Virginia's infrastructure and trying to strengthen it. So, for example, broadband, additional investments in both broadband planning and broadband implementation or deployment. You'll see us working on that. Talent or workforce development, we've got some major pieces of legislation on the budget side as well as non-budget that are designed primarily to help us continue the journey that Virginia has been on to increase the number of folks who are in the marketplace with business-demanded credentials, whether it's a welding society certification or whether it's something in IT or healthcare, but these credentials that don't necessarily require a 4-year post-high school experience or even a 2-year post-high school experience. We're working on matters related to Virginia's business climate, trying to help it stay competitive. So, for example, the governor has proposed that we lower our corporate tax rate down to 5.75%. Most of our competing states are already there or even below that. We're working on matters regarding strategic sectors in Virginia that are growing, that are paying great wages, that Virginia has assets in, and that we want to attempt to capture the growth, I should say. So biosciences is an area that we're talking about. And we continue to work on entrepreneurism. And so those are sort of the 4 or 5 themes that you'll see in this secretariat, lots of work on.
Go back to that word you mentioned, credentials, because if we'd been talking even at the beginning of the administration, that word was out there and was being discussed, but it's becoming increasingly important.
Yeah, I think I'm perhaps most encouraged by the consensus that we are, if you will, developing and strengthening around the need for Virginia to, in addition to trying to get people through our 4-year higher ed institutions, trying to get them 2-year degrees after high school, really focusing on the fact that where we have the biggest opportunity is actually in those areas that are technical in trades, welding, machinists, mechanics, program managers, those occupations for which you can get a license or a certification or an apprenticeship that will position you well to catapult into the middle class and beyond. And if Virginia does that as well or even better than what we're doing with respect to four-year degrees, then we will have the best prepared workforce for the 21st century of any place in the country.
You know, the people of my generation can remember whether it was 4-H or Future Farmers of America or maybe a business club, but there wasn't that much happening in high school then. And it's really starting in the high schools and then moving, as you said, up to the community colleges as needed.
It is. And business is driving this.
Yes.
You know, businesses are telling policymakers, they're telling educators, we need more welders, right? If you want us to expand or if you want to attract us to your community, then make sure you've got, you know, people who can work at all levels of the jobs we have. Yes, we need managers. Yes, we need engineers. Yes, we need scientists, but we need machinists. And so it is being driven by the market. The market is telling us now that it demands more people who are competent in the trades. And these are the kinds of credentials that are proxies for that competence.
You know, not long ago when you were speaking before, I think it was the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Commission, I recall you're making the comment that what businesses look for the most is a workforce.
No question.
That's ready. It's nice to have other things in the community, but if the workforce is there, they're not coming.
That's exactly right. So there used to be the old saying that jobs follow the money, or just follow the money and you'll get there. The truth is, in the 21st century, jobs follow the talent. If you can convince employers or prospective employers that you have the talent, they will come. And it doesn't matter if you're in Southern Virginia or Southwest Virginia or Northern Virginia or Central Virginia. If you have the talent, that is the most important ingredient to economic growth.
Well, from your own experience throughout the Commonwealth and being a native son of Southside Virginia, you know from your roots how when people have lost jobs in manufacturing, the old manufacturing, or in old coal mining or whatever, there's really a need for, not necessarily my age, but for the ones who've long since been out of high school to get trained for jobs of now and jobs of the future.
That's right, and that's the sort of the key to, if you will, resilience. And we all aspire to resilience, both in our personal lives and in the life of the Commonwealth. But the key to resilience is adaptability, the ability to be able to take a blow, maybe fall down, and get back up. But that getting back up is the ability to retrain people for the opportunities in front. And to, yes, you spend a little time lamenting what has, if you will, what has passed. But you got to spend most of your time preparing for the opportunities of the future, and they are many.
And probably the ones that are in their 30s or 40s in many parts of the Commonwealth are aware that they're going to do more than just one job with one employer in their lifetime, and they're going to need to continue to get new credentials.
That's right.
Or
new skill sets.
Yes.
They're going to continue to need to develop new muscles. They're going to continue to have to be, I mean, it's education now as a life's journey, as something that never ends, because you got to keep preparing yourself for the new opportunities. And we live in the age now where technology is so dominant.
Right.
And technology changes things so much quicker now than change of the past. So, you know, I'm on my iPhone 6, right? And that's that is a symbol of what's happening in our country and in the world. You know, you've got to now continue to build your muscles in technology or digitization or the digital world, which does mean you're going to have to continue to re-educate and re-educate. It makes it fun.
It does.
And so I hope that's the way we embrace it and go for it.
For many of us, it's the 14-year-old or the 12-year-old who shows us how to use some of these new technology.
My daughter, who's 13, has taught me everything that I know about my iPhone.
Right. I understand that.
There's no question. When I have a problem, I don't call, the help desk somewhere. I call my daughter.
Yeah, right.
And now her charge is usually higher than the help desk.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But
if she's watching this show.
Yeah. Well,
the fee just went up.
Yeah, my fee just went up. You're right.
Now, the matters you're talking about certainly cut across lines, political lines, geographic lines. Before our time would get by and you get on to your next assignment, what are some of the issues that maybe even the tougher issues that you'd be working with before this session ends?
Yeah. I think that the tougher issues still remain two in particular in the Commonwealth when you're talking about our economy. We still have this huge imbalance in where our job engine is. Our job engine is still right now way too heavily dependent on the public sector, right?
Right.
And way too heavily dependent on defense in particular when it comes to the public sector. And the other real challenge we have is our job engine is also too heavily dependent on one region of the state. So take December of last year, for example. We were up employment level, December of 15 versus December of 14, we were up 58,700 jobs, I believe it was, over December of 2014. At least 27,000 of those jobs that we grew were all in Northern Virginia.
Right.
So the real sort of vexing issues that we have to grapple with for a more resilient Commonwealth are those two. How do you get more balance between public and private sector? How do you get more balance between Northern Virginia and the rest of the regions? We don't want any less of a contribution from the public sector or any less of a contribution from Northern Virginia. We want more contribution from the private and the other regions. Those are the vexing problems that will take the work of this administration and subsequent administrations to really, really make dramatic improvements in. And we need it.
Yes. Secretary Jones, that's a good place to end it today. We look forward to having you back, and we look forward to following in your work and the governor's work and the General Assembly's work in these important issues.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you, sir.
All right.
There are many caucuses here in the Commonwealth and caucuses, particularly here in Richmond, the state capital, but there's a new one. And these two guests that are here, Senator Amanda Chase, Delegate Mark Levine, are going to tell our viewers about the newest caucus that you have started. So let me stop talking and you all start, and either one of you start, and then let's tell them about the Transparency Caucus.
Well, Amanda and I met actually because we're both freshmen. She's a freshman Republican senator. I'm a freshman Democratic delegate. In fact, she's probably on the more conservative wing of her party. I'm probably on the more liberal wing of my party. But we met for the first time in the Lieutenant Governor's office. He was having a freshman breakfast. And it's interesting, as a freshman, I got to meet the other freshman delegates. And I also got to meet the other freshman Democrats. But I had never met a freshman Senate Republican before. And we just hit it off personally. I like Amanda. She's very bubbly, has a lot of energy. We talked about our difficult primary wins, which we both had. And I don't even remember how the conversation got to the issue of transparency. I really don't. Do you remember how?
Well, we were just talking about issues that were important to us, and one of those I mentioned was transparency in government. And One thing that's been very important to me all along, which I saw was a bipartisan issue, was the issue of transparency. I've been a grassroots activist for over a decade, probably, and that was one of the top issues to the people. They want to know what their government is doing. They don't like the backroom deals. They don't like the smoke and mirrors. And so one of the things that I've been aiming to do over the past 10 years actually is to bring that transparency. And Mark was right on board, and he was like, wow.
Yeah, so I was
Yes.
telling her that, one of my concerns was that most of the work of the Capitol is not done on the floor of the House. It's done in committees and subcommittees. That's where the real work is done. By the time we get to the floor, the deals have been made, the bills have been modified, and we're generally voting up or down. And frankly, by the time they get there, most votes are unanimous, because those are the bills we all agree on. The ones that died, no one got to see. And where do they die? They die in subcommittee. They die in committee. That's where bills are amended. That's where they're debated. They're almost never debated on the floor. That's where the real issues are. In fact, there's a quote by Woodrow Wilson, when back just as an historian before he became president, talking about the United States Congress, that the real work was done in committees and the floor was just a show. And yet, although the floor is recorded, it's actually not even recorded, it's just live streamed. Frankly, I'd like to see it recorded and archived. Committee meetings, subcommittee meetings, they're open to the public, but the public often can't see them unless you're a lobbyist or you live in Richmond or you want to go to all these things. And let's face it, there's some of them 4 or 5 are scheduled at the same time.
Right.
There's no way to keep track of it all. If you're my constituents up in Alexandria and Arlington and Fairfax and you want to know how my bills went, I could say, yeah, it died in committee. But that's not a very satisfying thing. They want to know how it died, why it died, who debated it, how was it amended, how did you argue it, what good a job did I do as their representative? So I committed that I was going to record every subcommittee and committee vote on my bills in total, put it up on YouTube, and let my constituents decide how I did, and if my bill didn't succeed, well, they were going to know why. I told Amanda this, and she said she loved the idea.
I did. I absolutely did. And it's a little bit different in the Senate. I would like to argue that we're probably a little bit more transparent in the Senate.
I don't disagree with her.
Because we actually do record our committee votes, and people have access to that. You have to look up the bill number. One of the things I would like to see implemented is something that I'm accustomed to in Chesterfield County, where they actually have not only videoed but archived all of our meetings. All the notes, all the itinerary, it's all right there. And I think that should be our ultimate goal in the long term. But we understand gradual steps are necessary, so this is voluntary. At some point from the Senate floor, I am going to talk about transparency and encourage all my seatmates to get involved. I've been talking to them behind the scenes about them to try to, it takes a while. When you're used to a system operating a certain way, there takes some time for people to get used to that idea, and then they eventually embrace it, and then it becomes the norm. And so, and including in that transparency, in my opinion, is having the press on the floor. I think that's very important, and I'm so proud of our Senate leadership because they are working with the press right now, and I'm hoping we get a compromise on that and get them back on the floor, because I think that's also an important part of transparency, letting the people see what's going on.
On public television, anyone can watch the Senate for 2 hours. At the end of the 2 hours, if the floor session is still going on, it's off. But there's 2 hours. In the House, it's only the live streaming. You can do both in the Senate and the House. They are recorded, but the interesting thing maybe for your Transparency Caucus to look at is then where are they archived, and would it be possible for John Doe, Jane Doe, citizen to be able to say, I want to see the session from February 1st or...
It's not possible. I've actually asked about this. It's not possible. I don't know where they're stored or if they're stored. I think the cost is pretty minor, and I think it's something we work toward. One of the reasons why I really like this idea of videotaping subcommittee and committee hearings, and we do it on our own dime, we do it with our own staff, is that we don't need a bill to do it. If I need to get everything on the House floor archived so John and Jane Doe can see it, we got to pass a bill. It's got to go through both chambers. Not that I'm opposed to doing that. I support that. I'm sure Amanda does as well. But what I think we wanted to do was at least control ourselves. These are just our bills that we're recording. If a legislator doesn't want to record his or her own bills, that's their choice. But this way, we're starting a standard, and we hope to encourage others to join this gold standard, and it doesn't require any legislation, because these hearings are open to the public anyway.
Right.
It's just the public
Right.
doesn't have access to them. And maybe it takes some new blood, some freshmen to come in and say, hey, why are we doing it this way? It doesn't have to be the way it's always been done. And I know I'm really proud of the fact that it is bipartisan. I have a number of House Democrats. Amanda has a number of Senate Republicans. We're going to try to expand and grow even more over the next few weeks. And hopefully, once everybody's recording it, it becomes the standard, then it'll be no big deal to jump and actually have legislation on it.
Exactly. And one of the things that we were talking about before we came in is that we want to have regular meetings, weekly meetings, probably on Friday. And then we'll have a press conference on Monday or a press release announcing all the new members so that they too get the benefit of, I'm joining the Transparency Caucus. So it's never too late.
No,
Right.
no, it's just beginning.
So if our viewers could contact their senator or their delegate and say,
Absolutely.
have you all joined the
The Virginia Transparency
Exactly
Caucus,
right.
absolutely.
Right.
And you know,
We will
something
promote
that that really, I know whenever we were initially talking, I said, listen, I want to make sure that I can keep what I say that I'm going to do. If I'm going to video these, then I need to be able to fulfill that. You know, we all have limited staff, but it's real easy. I just threw my staff member my iPhone, and she videoed it straight from the video stream of my iPhone, so it's not
Yeah,
that
you just
big
use,
of a deal.
you use an iPhone or an Android, it goes right to YouTube. We've managed so far, cross fingers because I had 5 hearings yesterday, but we've managed so far to get every hearing up within 24 hours of the hearing. Every time, if I had 5 hearings yesterday, 4 bills and a Probst amendment, but I suspect all 5 will be up today. I'm really trying to keep to that 24-hour standard.
Now, before our time's up, Amanda, we'll start with you and then come back to Mark. What are some other issues that you all are working on individually in your own chambers?
Well, sure. I have the biggest one that is in the news today is basically reversing the reciprocity of the Attorney General's executive order. And so there are a number of us who have worked on this behind the scenes. I am a chief co-patron of this bill that would return that reciprocity. And honestly, to the everyday average person, they're going to be really excited about this. They're going to get everything back that they had before the Attorney General made this announcement. And there will be a press conference today at 1 o'clock at the Capitol with the governor. The governor's been very supportive of this, which is great. I mean, I had the support in the House. I had the support in the Senate. And I thought it was going to be killed, but the governor has been very open, and I've been very pleasant. He's listened, and I'm very thankful of that. You know, I'm a small business owner, and I remember traveling to Florida, and I was robbed there. And I thought, I will never do that again and not carry. And if I have to choose going to jail or saving my life, I'd rather go to jail. You know, that's our right. It's a personal safety, especially for women. You know, because I just think that's very important for me personally
Right.
as a woman to have that ability to do that. Other legislation, I have a couple, one that has already passed, actually this past week, is for our law enforcement, and it's for retired law enforcement. You know, currently the Virginia State Police is allowed to purchase other weapons other than just their handgun for $1. This opens that up and allows them any weapon that was issued to them, and of course their agency head has to approve this, but it would allow them to also purchase at fair market value some of their, like their shotgun, for instance. So that's moving right along. Looks like it's going to pass.
Let's get Mark in
Yes,
before our time's
absolutely.
up. Mark?
Sure. So it's interesting. Amanda talked about the great gun deal that everyone's in all the newspapers. I'm a big fan of the other portion of that gun deal. Speaking of safety for women, what it does is it says if someone is convicted of domestic violence, this is a serial batterer, someone who is active beating or raping, doing horrible things to women, that person will be denied a gun. And it seems to me that if you are a victim of domestic violence and you seek a protective order and you go through a trial and you prove that someone's out to get you, you can keep the perpetrator from owning a gun, not the victim, but the perpetrator. And I think that's a really good bill. It's something that, frankly, has been bottled up for a very long period of time. and I very much support that part of it. I had a couple my own gun bills. I'm not sure Amanda would agree with me on these, but die in committee yesterday. One said that we need background checks if you're going to buy or sell a gun over the internet. We know that, for example, in Colorado, the killer there got who's mentally ill got lots of rounds. Oh, our time's up. I didn't even get to minimum wage or family medical leave.
But as they go on your website,
I'll go on my website.
and,
Follow my
as they
website.
go on your website, they'll be able to see more
chasersenate.com,
information. So
yes.
thank you both. Thank you
Markfordelegate.com.
both. Thank you both.
Thank you for
being
having
here.
Thank you, David.
Yes.
This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community. For jobs, the economy, and public health, Virginia Hospitals, our lifeline.
The Virginia Education Association, because a good education is good for everybody.
Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.